Probably next Thursday.
Probably potentially next Thursday. My issue at the moment, and I'm hoping you can all still hear me, is I can't see you all. I don't know if I'm supposed to or not yet.
We can slide you up and down.
I'd like to be able to see them all and see that they're alive. I can see.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can you, I don't know if you can see me or not, it's Lisa here.
Yeah.
Could you just clarify, is Councillor Edge on the premises in another room, or is he still at his house trying to connect?
He's still at his house trying to connect.
Right, okay, thank you.
So that's where we've got with that at this stage. And I can see Sean still talking to you on the phone out the room now. So at this stage, I've started the meeting with him as potentially a late arrival. I think that's appropriate. We're just waiting to see if we can get you all on a screen. The first thing that's been written here on our etiquette for electronic meetings, which I'm going to get Deb to run through in a sec, is if you're not wishing to speak, perhaps the wisest thing to do is put yourself on mute, and then we won't hear any background or this or that, and we can then see when you're on mute. The little black thing, Councillor Taylor leads the way with the little line through in the corner. So Councillor Lang, thank you, and David's the three I can see so far. That will just perhaps stop any background noise. Councillor Roundtree, very good.
Councillor Bland.
How are you going with that idea?
All I can see is the minutes. Where are the black things?
That's all I can see too.
Yeah, we're just going to have to. I just trust that we can all just sit there with our forbearance in this process until we sort them out as we go. It could be a very long meeting, but probably the only way for all of us, including principally me, to learn.
So, Mayor,
Yep.
we can take the minutes off the screen, and if you want to see all the people at once.
I'd like to see all the people at once.
So we might take the minutes off, and then we'll
we
put them up when
we
need
don't
them.
have to accept the minutes, do we?
Sorry, just the whole thing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the minutes. Yeah, that's better. We've got you all back on screen. Yep. Councillor Bland's even there. Councillor Bland, have you worked out how to mute yourself yet without taking yourself off forever?
No. I've got a record button up in the corner, but that's all.
A little microphone somewhere, Councillor Bland?
No, just the full screen of the...
If you lightly touch your screen, you'll see a little microphone.
Go to the right of your own image.
Image. Top right tells me it will cancel me. It's fine. Is that what it's meant for? Switch camera, switch to gallery view.
Oh, they got three. Councillor Bland, for the iPad, you've got three little blue dots, and you might have a mute button in there.
Have I? Oh. No, three little blue dots. Oh, hold on, let me just go mute. Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yep. Now you're on mute.
Councillor Arthur too. Can I mute him from there?
Can you mute Councillor Arthur? No. We can shift the screen a bit.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
So I think we've all successfully muted ourselves. So I might just hand over to Deb, just to perhaps, have all councillors got this etiquette for electronic meetings? Have they read it yet? Perhaps the best thing in this scenario is to put your hand up if you have. Yep. Thank you. That's everyone that's on the screen. That'll. So when I ask you to put your hands up, please leave them up until I say so, because you've got no idea how I'm waiting for, who I'm waiting for normally, and you know I know which one I'm always waiting for. But Deb, could you just run through this etiquette, please, and we'll see how we go. Any questions? Deb will deal with this. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Well, this is a bit of a historical moment. Ben is just taking a photo or two.
Yeah, thanks.
To show this historical moment, so that's really good. Look, we tried to write a bit of an etiquette for this meeting procedure, this new process, just so as if there's any time lags, and we're hoping the internet will keep up. So far, so good. But you can see I've just put there what we can do, what we'll do should there be any real time lags there. We've got Ben in the room who's going to, what we've called, be the spotter. So he'll have a look to see who has a question or their hand up in relation to anything and let the mayor know should the mayor require that. Of course, we're asking you to be patient, which I don't think we need to mention that given the last 25 or so minutes. So well done on that one. If you have any questions, can you please, as the mayor alluded to, raise your hand until he calls on you, and Ben will note the order in which you've raised your hands for whatever question. In relation to voting, if you can raise your hands as normal, but if you could leave them raised until the mayor has declared the result of the motion or of the vote. Should you need to leave the meeting, we're asking for you to just verbally announce that you're leaving, so the minute takers, we can clearly see that and hear that you're leaving, and she can make a note of that. And also when you return into the meeting, if you can just announce it, just in case we miss you walking back in. Don't think there will be in this meeting for any conflict of interest. You'll need to leave the meeting electronically. We'll perhaps touch on that ready for the next council meeting more so. Confidential items, if any confidential items come up, as it states here, if you can make sure there's no one able to read your screen nor hear the proceedings, and no recordings are to be taken during the confidential items. And there's an ability to type comments, as we've kind of seen already, but in relation to the procedure of the meeting, if we can ask you not to put your comments or questions via that facility, if you can just raise your hand and ask the mayor. I think that's pretty much all. We haven't addressed deputations or petitions, etc. at this point. We'll have that more so for, in relation to etiquette. We've got that in our proceedings, but we'll address that more for the next council meeting.
Any questions?
Yeah. Are there any questions, folks?
Well, a lot of nodding heads.
Raise your hand if you have any questions.
Right, we appear to have no questions. Thank you, Deb, for that. So I propose we move on to item 3 in the agenda, please. There's a report there, and there is 4 recommendations. Perhaps first, I might ask our CEO, Bridget, to perhaps, I suppose, speak around the 4 recommendations in her report, if you may, Bridget.
Yes. So the 4 recommendations are to accommodate the recent ministerial direction from the state, which basically they got permission to override parts of the Local Government Act. Most local government acts in our policy meant that you had to meet face-to-face to have a valid council meeting. The direction from the state about 2 weeks ago now overrode that part of the legislation, and so we're here today to adjust all of our policies where face-to-face meetings are commented on in terms of our procedures. And the 4 recommendations today basically are added to our current policies to allow us to conduct electronic meetings and to conduct informal gatherings. There is also one motion there that is not included in the 4. It's towards the back of your agenda, and that's to change the meeting time to 2 o'clock while we're in this emergency mode, and that's for discussion. We thought that the 2 o'clock meeting may suit you now that most of you are probably confined to home, that the public aren't put in any inconvenience in any way because of the 6 o'clock meeting shift to the 2 o'clock. I understand the reason it was shifted originally was that people who worked or people who, councillors who worked could easily accommodate the meeting at the 6 o'clock time slot. At this point in time, that's probably not a consideration, so we're asking your permission to move back to the 2 o'clock meeting time, if that suits. Any questions on that? The inserts that we've made to the policies are basically taken straight from the LGA recommendation. Norman Waterhouse was involved quite heavily in crafting those words, and we haven't really changed them in any way. We've really just popped them into our current policy and procedures.
Any questions, councillors?
No?
Councillor
Councillor
Ling,
Turn on the old mic there.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just trying to find it. I know that removing people from confidential meetings has been altered slightly from police to SAPOL. But in light of us having electronic meetings in our own homes, I'm just wondering what powers police may have to enter a private home and remove someone from a meeting room.
So you, Mr Mayor, the removal would be via mute or end meeting.
No. Councillor Lang, you're talking about where in the current policy, not within the new suggested policy, if a person refuses to leave a meeting once it's declared confidential, we can ask them to leave, and if they refuse, say Paul call. But that's to do with when we have public in our gallery.
That's correct. Right. Okay. So it doesn't stop unnecessary people from actually being in someone else's private room.
No.
okay, that's happy with that?
Thank you.
Councillor Roundtree,
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on item 4, public access to meetings, I think the word details needs to be left in. So on the 3rd paragraph, it says notification of meetings via, and then it goes display at council. I just think it needs to be via details displayed at council offices or something. Just seems to be missing a word.
you're all looking carefully through the pages.
So page 4 of 12, down the bottom, last line.
You found it?
Deb, have you found it? Is it just a word missing, or is
The
it?
council committee orders that document.
The council encourages public attendance at meetings and committees through public notification of meetings via is the new word. And then it just says via, and if you go to the next green bit on the next page, via display at council offices. So is that just, is it just, I mean, I can see why it would say just via display, via notice displayed or something like that. It's a small, tiny little thing. It doesn't really make a big difference.
You've got it?
You've got it.
Ashley's found it. She's just like an Easter egg hunt here.
Good one, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
So what did you, sorry.
What are you suggesting, Councillor Roundtree?
Just it needed, I think, was one extra word in there. So it says via details displayed at council offices, the council's website, or via a notice displayed. But it just says notification of meetings via display at council offices is how it reads currently. And it's
Okay.
not, it's nothing to sell a shit. It's, you know, nothing too huge. It was just a word. That's all.
Okay, the view here is that the words probably
Okay.
are all right.
All right. Well, then that's fine.
Okay, you're happy with that? You're not happy with
Yep.
that?
No, that's fine. If it makes sense to you guys.
Councillor Bland, can I get you up in the middle of the camera? You're fading away. And you didn't get yourself off mute, so I didn't hear what you told me.
Why doesn't that unmute? Oh.
And for whatever reason, we still haven't got us off, you haven't got yourself off mute. I can see your frustration. That's the beauty of this.
No, it's not
No,
unmute.
we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Councillor Bland.
Just for the rest of the councillors, I'm going to try and get Sharon so she can speak to us if she wants to.
Ah,
There you go.
You can speak now, Sharon.
I'm fine. I'm now in the middle of the screen. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, but we missed until just then your words. And
Which
I
was probably my name.
did miss them.
I didn't even swear.
Disappointing. Councillors, so is there any other questions around the item 3 and the 4 recommendations? There being none, I'm going to ask someone to move recommendation 1, please. Councillor Bland moves. Councillor Rountree seconds. Councillor Bland, you want to speak to it at all?
No, I think enough said, thank you.
Right, Councillor Rountree?
I would just say that I think you guys have done a huge amount of work on getting all of these documents up to speed, and yeah, I imagine this is a massive body of work for all of you, and well done.
Okay, is any other councillor wish to speak for or against there's item 1 in number 3 of the agenda? 4 separate motions we have to have. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? There being none, Councillor Bland, you'll close debate.
Considered closed.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Those against? Thank you. That's carried unanimously by the 8 of us. Because Councillor Jensch still has not joined us yet. I'll move to item 2. Is someone prepared to move that way, please? Councillor Leng moves and Councillor Taylor seconds. Number 2. Councillor Leng, you wish to speak to it or not?
Just move on, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
No, nothing to add.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against number 2? There being no one, you close debate. Councillor Leng?
Close.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Item 3, please. Councillor Qualman has moved because he's right here. And Councillor Rountree is the seconder. Councillor Qualman, you want to speak to number 3? Since you're here.
No, that's well done. Quite comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rountree. Thank you. Any discussion around item 3, please? There being none, you'll close debate, Councillor Qualman. The debate is closed. I put item 3. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. That's carried unanimously as well. Move to item 4. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Hill, thank you. In that background, I lost your hand. Councillor Hill and Bland. Councillor Leng and Councillor Hill have got lovely backgrounds, and it's good to see them, but I can lose their hand in the background. I've worked out already. Yeah, whatever it is, some screen. Councillor Hill, you want to discuss that at all? You're just happy?
Yeah, I'm happy, thank you.
Right, you're just a bit slow off the button with the mute, but I've got to ask that. That's fine. Any discussion, councillors, around number 4? There being none, you'll close debate. Councillor Hill. Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Leng, are you voting? Councillor Bland, we don't have to. You can vote against it, but I'm voting in favour. That's what I'm taking. Councillor Arthur, it's a lot better with your hand across your head, I can guarantee. It's the angle of your camera that makes it interesting. Those voting against, please. So thank you. That's carried unanimously again. Thank you for that, councillors. We move to item number 3, the ordinary council meetings commencement time. There is one recommendation somewhere back from people like me in this paperwork.
Last page.
Last page. Last page it is. So it's item 4 on our agenda. There's recommendation in 2 parts, which we can take as one. Bridget, do you want to just go through that? It's just about changing the meeting time.
As I mentioned before, there was a suggestion that maybe during this emergency time where most of us are at home, that we move to a 2 o'clock meeting. we were concerned that it may interfere with some of your work lives, but I've checked with a couple of you and you seem to think that's okay. It also, when you changed it from 2 to 6, as I mentioned before, it was to facilitate the public coming in and to facilitate those of you who are working to come at a later time. Given that those 2 items aren't an issue now, we're asking your indulgence basically to move it back to 2 o'clock.
Councillor Roundtree.
How does this work with live streaming for people? Would we be recording it that people could watch it later, those who are working, or do they? How does it work with public wanting to be a part of it?
So as we're currently doing it, we're recording it and we'll pop it up on our website, so anybody can watch it at their leisure, basically, as long as it's there. When we move to a streaming environment, 2 things generally happen in my experience. One is that people can watch it live as it's happening, if they choose to, or they can, and it stays up there on a YouTube video, they can watch it at their leisure at a later time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions around this particular recommendation? There appears none. I'm looking for someone to move and second that, please.
That's Councillor Arthur.
Councillor.
So hang on a second. Councillor Arthur, you've got a very interesting hand motion. Are you moving the recommendation in total? And you need to, Councillor Arthur, you need to unmute yourself.
He's frozen. Oh, no.
No, Councillor Arthur's never frozen. He has muted himself, and at this stage, I'm trying to work out whether he's trying to have something to say or not.
Is that better?
Yeah, well, no, but you're back online, yeah. So,
Am I online?
yeah, do you wish to move that recommendation, or you want a question?
Yeah, I'll move that way, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Taylor, sorry to beat you to the punch, Councillor Qualman. Councillor Arthur, do you wish to speak to that recommendation at all?
Yeah, I'd sort of agree with it at this stage because I don't think we want to be out and about, as everybody keeps telling us. And the other thing is, with delegations not being able to present it to council, and also public question time, which is one of the other things that has been a great success. I think you can't have them at the present moment, so change things around. Let's do it till everything gets back to normal, whenever that will be.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against the motion? There appears to be none. You'll close it. Councillor Arthur?
Close.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, I'm going to put the recommendation, that's both parts, in item 4. All those in favour? Thank you, Tracy. My trouble is I'm not sure if you're wanting to vote against it, or I'm going to say all those in favour still. Thank you. Councillors, those against the motion? No, thank you. That's carried unanimously. Okay, we've done the agenda, I think. Is that right? Councillors are aware that at this stage a finance meeting will be a week or 2 away.
Yes.
I'm happy we've got this far. I'm saddened that we couldn't have Councillor Yench as well, but we'll get there eventually. And as you can see, at least myself is not confident enough to do it from home, but I probably need the support of the people in the room regardless. So is there any questions from anyone before we sort of officially finish the meeting today? Councillor Arthur?
Just as we go to this proceedings, I think we need to go back to printed agendas, because the tech-savvy people might be able to look at the agenda at the same time as they're doing this, but dumb bums like me can't do that. So I can do it. I can put my other computer up and run from one to the other. But even today, to remember what was in, I've read them all, but to remember what was in when we were moving the motions was, a little bit hard. So that's just a suggestion from my point of view.
Okay, no, well, that's fair enough. Councillor Roundtree?
Yeah, I think with people with only one screen, having the printout for them is probably a really good idea. But don't do it for all of us. Like I'm happy I've got 2 screens, so I can have both going at the same time. But for those who haven't, I think printed copies would probably help them a lot. But don't do it for me.
Yeah, fine. Councillor Hill?
Would there be the ability for the public to submit either a written or video question in for the meeting at all?
Okay.
So we'll go to Deb for the first answer there, and Councillor Taylor, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the proceedings of council and committee meetings, the code of practice that actually addresses or gives the ability for them to put in writing questions or deputations.
I was just thinking like of the Q&A type presentation, you know, they have people send in a video, because if someone wants to do a deputation, they could record it and send it in. I don't know if there's the ability to show those, like you showed the minute recording before. If you can show a video to everyone or send it around before the meeting so we can all see it. I just had an inquiry from someone last night who was one of the projects that didn't get up for funding in the drought money, and I just encouraged them that when another grant or other monies became available, that they made sure that they perhaps put a presentation or a deputation or something to the council meeting.
Well, I think if they wanted to have a go at it, and I've got a rough idea who they are, I suppose, that would be very interesting. They'd be historic too, wouldn't they? Be the first electronic deputation or petition to be lodged, deputation perhaps. I think that'd be quite, I don't think there's a technical issue with that for us.
We'd have to look at it, Mayor. No,
So
we would have a look to see if we could do it, because it does sound like a good idea. We're just working with very basic technology at the moment. Once we look at what's available from a streaming perspective, definitely, but we'll see if we can do it in this current environment as well.
Councillor Hill, for our interest, do you want to be a fully electronic or a paper version?
I will be electronic, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to Councillor Taylor, as indicated next.
Electronic please, I don't want any paper. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going around the screen, not around the room now. So Councillor Lang, you're next. You electronic, or do you want a paper version?
Electronic's fine, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bland, you want more time to think about it?
Unless I can access the screen here in the Meningie office, then I would be paper.
Okay, well, we're obliged to have a paper copy of Meningie anyway, I would think, in the Act, so that would not be a problem. So I'm just hanging on, because Bridget's asking a question of the governance person.
So councillors, for those of you who suggested you wanted a paper copy, you're more than welcome to print those in your home or locally, wherever you get that done, and you can claim that as part of your allowance.
So probably for Councillor Bland, you're at Meningie, and Councillor Arthur at Tinanara, we might be able to facilitate that. Sean's entered the room. Have you got a...
Yes, I'm just meeting Neville downstairs.
Yeah.
He's having trouble just getting
the
username.
We're finished.
Yeah.
So we are going to wind the meeting up in a minute, Shane. So Councillor Yates is still working his way through it, but that's fine. He's doing better than me at least anyway. So we've got the answers there on this stage on paper versus electronic. Any other comments or questions? Perhaps I could say I've found this actually quite easy to, almost easier to see who's voting, funnily enough. So there's a positive in this somehow, but yeah, Councillor Arthur, and I have had a talk with Councillor Arthur about how we would manage a conflict of interest if I had one and I had to leave the room, being the chair. That's probably going to be a bit more interesting. But anyway, Councillor Arthur.
Just one point. If we pick the minutes up from the Tintinara office, the only thing that have to be done before 3 o'clock on Friday to give me time to look at them.
That's fine.
I could probably get away with getting them on Monday, because I can still get them online and go through them. But when we're doing the meeting here, or doing a meeting, I like to see what I'm talking about, and it's going to be pretty hard for a single screen
Okay.
We'll get them printed for Tintin now. I can print them out for you.
So I'm just going to ask the other members in this room, I've asked everyone else, are there any other issues we've identified today? Ash, you're fine with recording so far and how we've done it? Ben, any issues you've seen?
No, and just to read the recording, that will be uploaded literally minutes afterwards. So
Beautiful.
squeaky clean there. No, all good, thanks.
Councillor Quilman, you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Georgia gave me a lot of help before, and it's actually set up now in my iPad, but I would like some.
Yeah, so you may come to be next to me in a meeting, or you may just sit outside the room, and if it fails, you come in.
Yeah.
That might be an option for Councillor Yench too. If, you know, obviously we haven't managed to grab him online, but that's what I said initially to Bridget, that both Councillor Yench and Councillor Coleman may like to be here as much to help me out. Bridget, not Bridget, Deb, you got any comments?
I think we'll look into for future meetings how you can see the motions that are put. We'll see if we can perhaps do that somehow. We'll have to just turn our mind to how to do that, given showing the screen didn't really work very well. So we'll look into that.
That's good.
Yeah.
And Bridget, anything else, anything in the broad sense that we need to say to councillors before we leave the meeting?
No, but I would like to thank staff because this has been a huge amount of effort, and I think Councillor Roundtree mentioned it.
Yeah.
In getting this done, we've had practice runs, we've had people. I was Councillor Coleman yesterday, and somebody was there, and we've worked it all out. So, thank you to staff for that huge effort.
So perhaps if the minutes would add actually the thanks of the councillors to all the staff that have led this, you know, somewhat historic change in our process that's been forced upon us.
Yeah.
Councillor Arthur, you still got your hand up to the end.
Yes, I've just got one other question. When we're in a meeting situation, there is a, you know, like a motion. How will we be able to see the motion? Will the camera focus on that motion and then we go through it, or how is that going to be done? Because we've got to know what the motion will be.
That's what Deb was just addressing then. I suppose if you have the paper thing in front of it, while it stays within the recommendation, it'll be fine. It's when we vary it or have an amendment, we'll get into some entertaining times. But I take on board what you're saying, and that's what the technical part of what we're going to try and work on now.
Well, I'm talking notice without motion, sorry.
Yeah, I'm aware this was very simple compared to a normal meeting. But yeah, that's what we need to work on. If we can have a text into your screen somehow, or your second screen, or whatever.
So we can currently put up all of you, and we can put up Ashley's notes. But as you saw before, once the Ashley's part of the agenda goes up, most of you disappear off the screen just because of the size. We're going to see if there's a facility where we can split the screen or have some other option so that we can see, and you can see each other, and we can see the screen that Ashley's typing on at the same time.
So I'm going to take Councillor Hill, then Councillor Roundtree, and then Councillor Ling, I believe, in that order. Councillor Hill.
Well, my suggestion was going to be is put that typing screen back up while the motions are being typed up, perhaps. At least that way we can read what's being written, and then go back to the grid view for the vote.
Yeah.
But we won't be able to watch it at the same time, but at least we able to see the motions being put up or the amendments being put up, and then vote by changing the screen back again to vote.
Yeah, thank you. That's probably the shortcut way. Yep, Councillor Roundtree, I think, was next.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as Councillor Hill, exactly the same suggestion. If we just put the words up when we're doing it and then take them down when we don't need to see them, I think that will work fine. And I just also wanted to comment that I thought this worked really well. I was a bit dubious about how it would all go. Sometimes there's lag between people talking over each other. I think this has worked really well, and congratulations to everyone for getting this far.
Thank you. Councillor Ling.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what everyone else is seeing, but on my screen, when Ashley had the minutes up, I still had the images of everyone across the top of my screen in gallery. So I found that quite good, actually.
Yeah, so that's probably
why others couldn't have got the same.
Well, what we were probably hoping would happen, I think for us, for me in the room, it's important I can see the screen I've got there, because I can clearly see. It's actually clearer to see who's voted than any other method I've seen for a while. Looking at Ben, it's actually worked really well. The slowest hand pusher downer was, no, council, I know they can hear me. The slowest hand put it down was Councillor Hill. That means she was very serious about her vote.
I was just making sure, because you said you lost my hand a couple of times, so I was just making sure I left it up long enough to.
Yeah, no, you're just a bit biased on the screen on one side, that's the thing. But
Yeah, I shifted hands during the.
for the councillors Hill and Ling have got lovely background photos, which I think are very good, and that just added to the from where we sit the thing. Councillor Bland
Do that.
has got too much light behind it. We're going to deal with that in Menengi. Sharon, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, from my view here, watching the room, I'm only seeing 3 people, and that is Councillor Cormann, Ben, and yourself. While I can hear Bridget and Deb, it is perhaps better if we could somehow refocus that.
And normally I would be there, Councillor Bland, but because Sean had left the room, I was just sitting near the laptop in case we had to change anything.
Okay, I can only see 3 people basically, so I'm assuming there's 5 around the table, but I'm aware of nothing more than that.
There's 6 counting Ash.
Same
Okay.
here, Sharon, only see 3.
Yeah.
Your same vote, okay.
That's just Sean's not been with us, and it's I'm sort of pleased we survived without Sean, because that means we're sort of making some progress. Is there anyone else wish to comment before I close the meeting?
If I can.
Yeah, Councillor Ling.
Can Councillor Arthur stop clicking his pen or switch off his audio?
Not got a pen in my hand, Councillor Ling.
Someone's clicking.
I think it would be me, Councillor Ling, quite honest. But that's all right. Okay, councillors, everyone's happy? I've got no one saying no. At whatever time it is, Ashley, I close the meeting. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be in touch about a Finance Committee meeting and then the ordinary normal monthly meeting at this stage. And it's going to be rather boring this Easter. I'll have to go fencing or something. Thank you, everyone.
Weren't we doing a workshop next? Budget workshop?
Bridget,
I can
yes.
speak to that. The workshop was intended, but the format that we've got, we've realised doesn't suit a Zoom meeting. We have to do a little bit of an adjustment to it. So we're going to move that until next week. So we'll probably do it either just before or just after the Finance Committee meeting. So it'll be the similar time next week.
Excellent.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
See ya.